Hi, this is Zach with HVACdirect.com and we're back with another video. Today we're going to talk about why is my evaporator coil leaking water? This is actually a very common question I used to get when I was out in the field. Homeowners would call me very concerned, understandably, because water was pouring out of their system. The good news is there's really only 4 main reasons that this could be happening. We'll talk about them today, starting with the easiest to fix, working our way up to the hardest to fix. Hopefully, the reason that your evaporator coil is leaking water is reason number 1, and that's that your condensate drain is plugged or clogged. Your condensate drain is that white PVC, normally 3/4 in size, that comes out of your evaporator coil. This is there to take the condensation that naturally forms on the evaporator coil and take it down to your drain in the floor. The bad news is it has what's called a drain trap in it, which a lot of times is required by code, but your drain trap, just like the one under your sink, is a place that dirt and debris likes to collect. So what can happen over time, especially if your filter isn't doing the best job or you haven't had your system cleaned regularly or recently, is that that drain trap can get clogged. Now the good news is that's a relatively easy fix. One option that many service technicians will use is compressed CO2 or compressed nitrogen, and they'll try to blow your drain trap out. Now sometimes this works very good, sometimes it doesn't quite get all of the dirt and debris. What I used to like to do is simply cut out the whole condensate drain, take it outside, and run a garden hose through it. This would really get it cleaned. Now the only downside to that option is you then have to take it back inside, use some PVC glue, and reattach the drain line. But it's a relatively simple fix. That is option number 1. Option number 2, which is a little bit harder to fix, but still not too bad, is you have a dirty evaporator coil. If the evaporator coil gets dirty, that can interrupt the condensation from flowing properly down the evaporator coil. At that point, what you're going to need to do is clean the evaporator coil. The reason I have this at number 2 is it's normally relatively easy to get to your evaporator coil, and it's not too hard of a task to clean. If you do struggle to get to the evaporator coil or you don't feel like you can clean it yourself, we would recommend having a service technician from your HVAC company do that cleaning for you. But the good news is once you get it cleaned, it should start draining properly. That was option number 2. Option number 3 is one that's going to be a little bit harder to fix, but still not a major repair. Your drain pan itself might be cracked. The drain pan is the device or the item that sits right under the evaporator coil where the water collects before it goes down the condensate drain. If you develop a crack in that drain pan, it will leak water. Now the good news is you don't have to replace the whole coil. I have heard some HVAC technicians say that before, and it's simply not true. You can buy just a condensate pan and replace it. In fact, I've done it before without even cutting your evaporator coil out of the system. You simply lift up the coil carefully, and you slide the old pan out, and you can slide the new one in. This is a repair that I would recommend having an HVAC technician do though, because if you do kink a refrigerant line, or hopefully not rupture a refrigerant line, that could cause a lot of issues and be an expensive thing to fix. So I would have your certified HVAC technician replace that drain pan for you. But that would be option number 3 of why is my evaporator coil leaking. Now hopefully it was one of those 3 reasons, but if not, it's most likely leaking because of the 4th reason, which is that your evaporator coil froze up. And if your evaporator coil froze up, that could be a larger issue. Now one thing that can make an evaporator coil freeze up is dirt. So if you notice that your evaporator coil was dirty and you cleaned it, you may have already taken care of this problem, and that would be good news. But if that doesn't fix it and your coil is still freezing up, it could be that you have a refrigerant issue. And that's the worst case scenario. At this point, you're definitely going to need a certified HVAC technician who has their EPA certification to come check out the system. What happens is when you lose refrigerant or you have a restriction in your refrigerant line, the pressure of the system drops. And when the pressure drops, so does the temperature. At first, this might sound like a good thing. It's an air conditioner, of course. But if the temperature drops too low, below 32 degrees, or right at about 32 degrees, all that condensation that is forming on the coil, it's going to freeze. And then you're going to get a lot of ice buildup. At first, this won't be a problem, but when the ice gets thick enough, you'll lose all airflow. And when you lose all airflow, you won't have any cooling. Eventually, your system will turn off, or you'll shut it off because you noticed it's not cooling, and then when that 2, 3, or 4 inches of ice that's built up melts, it can overflow your drain pan, and then you'll notice water leaking out of your system. Now, how do we solve that? That's where, like I mentioned before, you're going to have a licensed HVAC technician get involved. They'll put their gauges on the system, they'll check if it's low on charge, maybe you have a bad metering device, maybe you have a clogged filter dryer, but they'd be able to figure that out for you. And those are the 4 main reasons that an evaporator coil will be leaking water. Hopefully it was reason number 1 and we helped you solve it, or hopefully we put you on the right track or the right pathway to be able to get your licensed certified HVAC technician to fix the problem for you.